The Season 27 PTR began Tuesday. As always, we sought to find the strongest build. This time we were successful. Season theme was the Angelic Crucibles, which can be applied to a legendary to re-roll the item as a primal with an additional Sanctified class affix. Currently on the PTR, Sanctified items are sometimes not rolled to ancient ranges. For example, it would have 750 vitality instead of 1000, or a lower damage range on a weapon or a ring. But we think this is a bug. Let's address the army of elephants in the room. Rothma Necromancer, with the sanctified power that continuously casts army at nearby enemies, did an invalidating amount of damage. Multiple enemies on the screen were mobbed by waves of skeleton torsos. When mobs were stacked, multiple casts converged onto the same spot. And the new change to Funerary Pick gave it a significant boost to single target. With sub 2k Paragon and decent gear, we cleared 4 man 150 with a Z-Barb, ZDH, and 2 Rothma Necros in 3 minutes 56 seconds. Our average time for 150 with this team was about 5 minutes and 20 seconds. On Thursday, Blizzard changed the Sanctified ability to cast the correct rune. It was casting Valley of Death initially, instead of Unconventional Warfare, so the rift no longer clears itself. Regardless, Rothma should be a strong contender for RGK with the new Funerary Pick, and Rothma will definitely clear 150 solo. Blood Nova, LOD Necro, got a 500% multiplier from the change to Iron Rose. A note that the patch note said Iron Rose would get a 40% increase that stacks to 10 times, but on the PTR, it has a range of 40 to 50% that stacks to 10 times. And Nova looks like the best trash clearer for group. The Death Nova Sanctified power adds some damage sometimes, but mostly is used to get a free primal. In solo, the Sanctified power will be more impactful to help with boss kills and finish off elites, and the build will probably clear 150 solo. Also, LOD mages, aka rats, will almost certainly be the XP meta. Dragul got a buff to survivability, and the damage multiplier changed from 3800% to 10,000%. Alongside the set buff, Iron Rose got the aforementioned 500% multiplier added. The damage numbers are similar to LOD, but LOD will likely win out as the trash clearer due to having more elemental damage rolls. Drag will also probably clear 150 solo. Inarius Necro is a similar story to LOD and Dragul. Blood Nova is the new hotness with the biggest multipliers, so will be the ability of use for solo. It may do 150, but it is the weakest form of Blood Nova. Pestilence Necromancer didn't get anything since it does not use Blood Nova. The Golem Sanctified power is mostly a bait as it requires you to drop Blood Rush to use the Golem. It could maybe be used for a key farming build that doesn't use Jessus so you can drop skeletons, but likely your fastest key farmer would be mages. And we're moving on to Wizard. Firebird can use the Sanctified power for 20 missiles, which may be better at proccing the ignites. Testing has been difficult on the PTR because Firebird causes unplayable lag on the servers. It is a contender for RGK, especially at high Paragon. For solo, 150 seems difficult, but possible. DMO Wizard got a lot of quality of life and a defense increase. With the changes to Crown of the Primus, you can teleport with no cooldown, and with the new 2-set, you never need to press slow time. The Arcane Orb Sanctified power looks really cool, and is possibly better than using Twister. DMO might get a 150 clear by the end of season, but it will be difficult. Talrasha was buffed with a bit more defense and a lot more screen clutter. Either Arcane Orb with the Sanctified power, or Meteor with the Storm Armor Sanctified power will be the best version. From testing, it seems Arcane Orb is better, but I don't think Talrasha has enough damage for 150. Veer didn't get any direct changes, but the Arcane Orb Sanctified power should make Arcane Orb stronger than Shantoto. I would not predict Veer getting a 150 clear unless you get very high Paragon. For LOD, Wizard can use Arcane Orb until you reach high enough Paragon to make Shimizu Twister, and will use the appropriate Sanctified power for each. With enough Paragon, it should clear 150. I'm contractually obligated to not mention the last Wizard set. We're going to move through Witch Doctor quickly. None of the Sanctified powers are game-changing, but they are all somewhat useful, especially for solo. Eric here is high on the list for RGK, but is likely worse than Rothma and Firebird. We can also move through Demon Hunter quickly. The Vengeance Sanctified power doesn't really have an impact on trash, though it does do okay damage to the Rift Guardian. The Cluster Arrow Sanctified power is potentially bugged. It causes Cluster Arrow to not cost Hatred, therefore it cannot proc Focus and Restraint. The Strafe Sanctified power is neat for ZDH, although it needs to be reset when you level up, and it contributes to lag. The Strafe power can also be used for some damage builds, but the trade-off versus the Vengeance power may not be worth it. More testing and getting Cluster Arrow fixed are required. Monks have been difficult to test because the Sanctified power for Bells causes lag on PTR. The 7-sided Strike power patches up a weakness of Uliana. If someone wants to go for a push, 150 could happen. Raiment Monk will use the Way of the 100 Fist power, but it doesn't add much in terms of tier, and Raiment will remain the weakest of Monk sets. Sun Wukong got basically nothing from the season theme since it will still use Tempest Rush instead of switching to Bell. TOJ got actually nothing from the season theme. Inna's got less than nothing, with their set bonus dropping from 30,000% multiplier to 9,000% multiplier. Dropping 21,000% multiplier loses a little over 7 tiers of damage, meaning Inna's will still be good for farming keys, and can likely still clear a 150 solo, but might not be a contender for RGK. LOD Monk will use the Bell Sanctified power, unless you become annoyed by it, or it causes too much lag. Instead of casting the Bell and delivering damage, with the power, casting the Bell delivers a totem. That totem can then be hit 4 times to deliver damage. It's theoretically more damage per cast, but using it is clunky. Bell Monk will of course clear 150, even if it has to do it without a meaningful Sanctified power. Z-Barb can never escape the 4-man meta, and will be used for rats and for pushing as always. The Whirlwind Sanctified power might find its way into one or both of those, but it's not likely for rats, and causes too much diminishing returns in higher tiers, so it's not going to work with a trash clearer that needs enemies stunned for max damage. A few solo builds will also like the Whirlwind Sanctified power for stacking enemies. The Wrath of the Berserker Sanctified power is broadly applicable to almost all of the builds. The Shockwave from the Hammer power looks cool, but doesn't do much damage from testing. Last, but not least, we have Crusader. Let's get the Falling Sword Sanctified power out of the way first. We were able to clear a 2-man 150 in 14 minutes and 50 seconds. With a Z-Barb and only the immense damage of the Angels. There will certainly be faster 2-man builds. Aegis of Valor Crusader can use the Fist of Heaven Sanctified power to great effect, especially for key and speed farming. Hammerden had a Sanctified power made especially for it, but it's pretty disappointing in terms of power and playstyle. Rollins is still sweeping the nation and can easily clear a GR more billion, even though it got nothing from the season theme. Bombard remains the best skill for LOD, which got nothing from the season theme. Invoker is also unchanged. The last set to discuss is a Con, which got reworked. Now, you summon minions that hit enemies to proc Condemn, while you bang a Judgment Gavel. It also requires you to adjust the brightness settings of your monitor or wear sunglasses. Unmentioned by the patch notes, the multiplier on the 6 set changed from 2,000% to 1,500%. It may be a contender for speed farming, it may push a slightly higher tier than it was able to before, but it doesn't seem to be a drastic increase. Overall, coming into the PTR, I was a bit more excited than I am now. The Sanctified powers seem to be mostly style over substance. But we'll see how Blizzard makes changes going into week 2. And overall, the season looks to be rats for XP into a fairly interesting meta push. And that's really all we can expect from a Diablo season. Have a nice day.